I'm going to put record for all of those who are not on yet, and let's get kicked off here. So thank you all for joining today. You are either hanging out in the afternoon with me, maybe wanting to have a happy hour drink, or if you're over on the West Coast, hopefully you're getting some lunch as well, and doing a little lunch and learn today. I'm really excited to have Jodi and Alexis here today. They actually did this exact presentation last week at Dreamforce, and there were so many people in line that could not get in that we just decided that we were going to do a virtual one in order to be able to get all this really great content out, to hear the story. And then we're actually going to do a little bit of a breakout room as well, to be able to kind of show you all or to spawn some really good conversations. So excited to have you all here. Jodi and Alexis, if you want to go ahead and kick it off.
Great. Thanks, Danielle. So I think we're all a little bit recovered from Dreamforce, so hopefully this session makes sense. Welcome to Unlock the Full Power of Financial Services Cloud. That's me, Jodi Wagner. I am the Asset Management Solutions Specialist at Salesforce. Basically work with a lot of the FSC features and help our solution engineers understand the industry and how our technology in FSC relates to the industry. Very quickly, do not make any purchasing decisions based off of what I or Alexis or Danielle says. Make your purchasing decisions based off of generally available products, which everything here will be. And thank you. Whether you came to Dreamforce and you missed our session, I'm really sorry, but we're really glad to have you here now. So thank you for joining us. Again, that's me. And I have with me today, Alexis Bradley. I work very closely with Alexis. She is Manager of Business Applications at Vista Equity Partners. I don't know if Alexis, if you just want to say hi and just kind of give a quick background.
So hi, everyone. Alexis Bradley at Vista. I oversee probably about 13 platforms, but about the majority of my time is spent in Salesforce. And this is my bread and butter. I came from consulting as well, so I am really happy to be here.
Thank you. So quick start before we get going, and you'll have to help me, Danielle, because I'm not super Zoom conversant because we use Google Meet at Salesforce. Show of hands, we could do hands, thumbs, something. How many of you are on FSC or have implemented FSC?
I got one.
Wait, how do I see this?
Two.
Okay,
one, two, and a me. Jackie says a me. Couple clap-ins as well.
All right.
Okay. Cool. So this session is going to help you regardless if you've implemented it or not. And I'm going to give you a few little tidbits around why. But what we'll do is we'll go through a little bit of FSC, kind of like where we started, where we are, some new things that came out with Spring 23, if you haven't heard, and then go through some questions with Alexis about her journey, and then talk about kind of where we're going from here. So if you're not aware, kind of not sure if you have been living under a rock or what's happening, but since 2016, we created Financial Services Cloud. So I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for the last, I hate saying this number out loud, for the last 18 years. I was a customer, I was a consultant, I worked on the SI side, and now at Salesforce. So I made a whole lucrative career out of building Financial Services Cloud and Sales Cloud over and over again. But what we decided to do at Salesforce is to take what a lot of our customers were doing and start to actually build that into the product. So you didn't have to build all of this stuff. You just had to make some minor tweaks on the configuration. And we started with wealth and asset management, and we have since continued on with commercial banking, insurance. We acquired Velocity, which helped us really speed up what we built out for insurance. And with that came some additional functionality, flow for industries, DocGen, et cetera. So we've done a lot of that. We really spend a lot of time on service processes, and this year we're really spending a lot of time on personalized advice and guidance. And if you were at Dreamforce, you probably heard a little bit of like personalization and how do we do a lot of that stuff, like with say advisors and like our retail banking customers. So from there, just wanted to quickly say what we did with Financial Services Cloud. So it's built on what we call a super SKU of Sales and Service Cloud. So when you purchase FSC, you have everything in Salesforce, everything in Service Cloud. And then what we did is we put a layer on top of that configuration. So for example, I can't tell you how many times I've built householding, a little janky with like account to account relations. There wasn't really any great roll-ups there. We used to use like the DLRS functionality that you could get on the app exchange. And then we were kind of stuck, right? You built a lot of things like being able to house financial accounts, but it was a lot of custom objects with junction objects. So what we did is we took that on and started to build out all of that stuff. So it comes pre-packaged with FSC. And if you can see here, we have like banking, wealth, commercial investment banking and insurance specific data models. We have compliant data sharing. If you're not aware of what that is an additional sharing and visibility layer that lets you at the record level toggle who can see what. Very important for say like M&A and deals. Pre-configured consoles. We have a lot of consoles for like service processes with retail banking advisors. We're also building a lot of those out for mortgage and then like out of the box analytics. So that's a lot of what we've been doing with Financial Services Cloud. Now, I know what you're probably thinking in your head, but Jodi, we don't want to go to a whole new org. So how many, by show of thumbs or whatever we're doing today, Danielle's in charge, think that you have to actually upgrade to a whole new org to use FSC? And I know I'm leading the witness because kind of this slide will tell you that you don't, but. So Danielle, you're the one in charge because I can't see what's going on.
I don't see any thumbs, but I will tell you from my personal experience that there are a lot of people that think that that is the truth.
And that was the truth when we first launched. What we have been doing over the last 4 or 5 years is actually packaging a lot of that into our core product. So if you look at this slide, what is actually only sitting in the managed package now is like the financial 360. So that's the financial accounts, goals, transactions, and holdings. And then like the 360, so the householding relationship map and the B2B and B2C data models. And you're probably asking, why is that important? It's really important because if you have built out the coverage model, the relationship hierarchy, if you have built all this stuff out and you're really happy with how this looks, and we'll get some examples with Alexis in a little bit. If you're really happy with how that looks, you can skip the managed package and now look at these additional pieces of functionality. The ones in purple here, Financial Services Cloud Core, and you can turn those on with permission set licenses. So if we step into that actionable relationship, being able to have that visualization of, if you're thinking of, say, like asset management, you've got an asset management, say a relationship manager, wholesaler working with a specific advisor. In insurance, you have, like an underwriter working with an agent at an agency. So you're able to have that visual representation of the relationship. You could have guided discovery, which is like a series of questions, say like underwriting, applications, etc. That compliant data sharing component that we talked about, that supersedes the traditional sharing and visibility and lets you toggle that on and off. Interest tags has been really popular, and that is a way of either on the interaction, and that is our new version of activities, and I'll get to that in a second. But you can, on custom objects, the account, the contact, etc., be able to capture what you talked about in a very easy reportable way. So they're talking about ESG investing, they're interested in a certain type of insurance, business insurance, etc. It's a way of capturing different interests. It could be they're interested in wine tasting. So you want to keep that information, like if you're going to be sending a gift. Also interested in wine tasting if you want to send a gift. Kidding. But we also have other components, right? So like branch management. So this is very popular in retail banking. If you've got bankers that go from branches to branches. So it's almost like that my team concept. Action plans, if you've seen action plans in action, a series of sequential tasks, you can have templates to use that. So all of these things now, you can toggle on and off through permission set licenses. Now you're probably asking, well, why is that such a big deal? It's a big deal because the effort that came with FSC and trying to get onto FSC has been minimized. If you want to, what you can do today is purchase FSC and you can turn on these different pieces of functionality. And I always recommend doing it in a sandbox, test it out, see how this works with your teams. So I'm going to take a quick stop there. Did you all know about this? And how exciting is this to you? Again, leaving the witness a little bit. Danielle, you're in charge with the thumbs ups. Oh yeah, I see one.
I'm getting a couple of thumbs up here.
And it's okay. You guys can talk too. This is meant to be interactive as well.
Yeah, this is not the me show. So from here, I'm not going to go to we're not there. We're not ready for the French music. So now I wanted to bring Alexis into the conversation because Vista is one of our customers that definitely use this path. And I don't want to steal your thunder, but Alexis, when we started talking about FSC, where did it fit into your roadmap and why? And I'm thinking like those initial conversations.
So probably over the past 18 months or so, we've been on quite a data structure journey. And I say that because we really need to scale with our organization, growing every quarter nonstop. So we're in a hyper growth mode. So when I joined Vista, we have our overall roadmap of where not only do we have pain points from our business partners, but also from a platform itself, which is where I come in. So at the time when we first had this conversation, the entire implementation to me felt very overwhelming because we thought that we needed to do either like spin up a whole new org or, do a ground up kind of implementation. And we have a lot of historical data in our org right now because we're utilizing Sales Cloud and some pieces that are put together from a custom solution. So more recently, now that we have the ability to implement this via permission set, it made it much easier to weave into our roadmap. And I say that because we just had this massive data transformation and change management with our end users that putting them through another, transformation training journey did not seem like it was a good fit at the time. But the permission sets gave us the ability to not only listen to the requirements from our end users, but really showcase features in smaller bite-sized pieces.
So how did you decide that implementation approach and your readiness for that? I know you said you went through that whole long journey with the data, which probably made you not want to go to a whole new org, and I understand that, but how did you decide how you're going to embark on this?
So what we actually utilized an additional sandbox. So it was a full sandbox. So it had all of our data available, and we installed the financial services permission sets and were able to turn on the features that were important to us, not necessarily like, for example, all of the financial services core features were available to us, but some of them didn't make sense based on our business process. So we were able to work with an implementation partner that we had worked with previously as well for our previous reconstruction. And we could see real time and with our data, with our page layouts, what the impact would be and what the user experience would be for each of these features that were important to us. So interaction summaries was a great example. We actively use our activities and have a custom solution around it. So it gave us the ability to see it in real time, as because you can only go so far with release notes or demos. It really becomes tangible when it is in your sandbox.
I want to dig a little bit into something. You mentioned interaction summaries. Can you tell us a little bit about why you're calling that specific component out?
Sure. So because we are not just a private equity shop, we have other verticals within Vista. We have a business need, and this is across a couple of different verticals, to be able to tag or to be able to consolidate data about a meeting. Let's say I'm meeting with an investor and I want to discuss 5 different opportunities. So the fact that we would put in, 5 different activities so that it would line up with all of the appropriate opportunities in the system made rolling up any reporting or even just counts of activities or how long it took. It worked one way when you rolled it up to the investor, but not necessarily when you looked at the opportunity in which the person was assigned to. So it did make a little bit of a bubble gum duct tape solution where we were trying to be able to look at a record, an account record, and say, oh, we've had these conversations about these opportunities, so multiple opportunities, or we are looking at a specific opportunity and say, hey, you were mentioned with these 5 different investors. So it made a difference from a data model perspective as well as a user experience perspective.
So that was part of your efficiency, right? Like not having to log 5 activities for one meeting. And if anybody's spent 5 minutes with me, you know that activities is my least favorite object in Salesforce. Least favorite. So we talked a little bit about your thought process in terms of like how you implemented and you mentioned very quickly a little bit of the change management. Can you give us a little bit more information as to how that went? How did you prepare your users for that change? Because that's a lot of change that you guys all went through.
It is. And so I think over the past year, we were able to set a precedent with our previous implementation of our data restructuring so that our users were prepared. They knew exactly what materials they were going to be provided. They had a more of a white glove approach where they had individuals or even a whole team to reach out to say, hey, I know I've watched the demos, I participated in the training, but it's not clicking for me, we had that support system in place. So for financial services specifically, because we went down the path of permission sets and because we went down the path of using a sandbox with our data in it, we were able to prepare our training materials far more in advance than we were able to before, because we could see and actually provide that visibility to our end users. That being said, we also were able to receive some early feedback and change management as well as training really can make or break an implementation, in my opinion. So being able to call out and pull up an org and do a live demo made a big difference. So since a lot of our users are not heavy when it comes to reading through technical documentation, we were able to do a show and tell in essence and provide the same level of transparency, but in a visual way.
So I think that's great. I always think that the users are the most important part of Salesforce. We can make really cool things, but if they're not using it, what's the point, right? So on that note, what are some of your favorite features in FSC besides interactions and interaction summaries?
So I know interaction summaries are my favorite only because, well, my top, because it really retires a custom solution that doesn't scale with our organization, which makes me very happy. Interest tags are another one of my personal top favorites. And I say that because, again, we have another custom solution that's put in place that really, it works. It's not like it works for what we needed to do based on the requirements of our business users, but it wasn't as elegant as a solution that comes out of the box with Financial Services Cloud. So there's a lot more clicks. You see some Apex pages, but this really kept in mind not only the processing behind the scenes, but also any of our users that had the correct access to it, able to look at an account record and see, all right, well, where are these opportunities being tagged? Where is this in the line of all of the interest things that they are participating in? Because it also could highlight very quickly some white space that may or may not be discovered before.
Great. And staying on the fave features topic, how do you prepare for releases? I mean, and I'm going to link to like the winter 24 release notes, but every release, there's so many good things that are coming out. How do you go through and look at what's important for your business? How do you assess that and decide what you're going to work on in terms of enabling it for your users?
Sure. So I am not allowed to call Jodi, first off.
You're allowed to say that.
No, can't call Jodi. So with any other implementation of any of the upgraded features from Salesforce, this included, we always start with the release notes and really be able to look at not only all the new features, but the new features that are going to impact us the most, or that it potentially could solve a pain point for some of our business users. So always starting with the release notes and then carving out the priority items. And then on top of that, sandbox previews really give you a leg up on being able to showcase new features and or updated features that were already there. And sometimes it even gives it additional leg up when it comes to giving your end users the ability to say, hey, you know what? We do have a solution for this in place today. What's the level of effort to switch over to something that's native and out of the box that will continue to scale with us? So it really gives us that. So those two items that always sit on top are release notes, narrowing down what's important to you and your business, and sandbox previews for sure.
So that was just my last question, but I'm going to sneak another one in there because you talked about like looking at the prioritization and what comes next to your business. But, and I don't know if anybody else is thinking this, but I am always thinking of the fact that on the back end, what are you unwinding, right? So how are you managing through the technical aspects of it, right? Are retiring technical debt, doing all that other stuff? Can you give us some insight into your process there?
Sure. So with any new feature that we introduce, the first thing we look for is this replacing a feature that we have today that's custom, or is it even replacing a feature that we are using in Salesforce for maybe or maybe not the correct purpose? So maybe there are some pieces of Salesforce that we have repurposed in not the expected way. So the way we approach it is looking at our roadmap from a business user standpoint. What is the business asking for, as well as being able to scale the platform itself? So we have those lined up right next to each other on our roadmap. And it gives us the ability to prioritize something that may or may not have been prioritized before, as well as become more efficient when it comes to implementing something new and retiring at the same time. So you have them moving in parallel, where rather than introducing all of these new features and then coming behind and saying, oh, we got to clean all this up, we're going to clean all this up, which typically doesn't happen. where you're able to prioritize any of your technical debt. So this gave us the ability to work in parallel.
Thank you. Hopefully that helps other people who may be embarking on their journey. So Danielle, oh, before we go to Danielle, was there anything else you wanted to add that we didn't touch on, Alexis? Anything burning that you wanted to talk about FSC on?
Just want to hone in on everyone has custom code and what the permission sets, as well as implementing into your own sandbox and really testing it really supercharges your demo ability to your business users. It makes a big deal. You're looked at as a trusted advisor, not just an order taker. So having that ability to have both the documentation for those people who want to consume it, as well as the visual, really does create that trust with your business users as well.
Thank you. So I'm going to hand it over to Danielle, who is going to break everybody into breakout rooms. And the reason why we're doing this, and we had a lot of success with this at Dreamforce, is being able to actually interact, think up through, for the people who have gone to FSC, what have been some lessons learned, gotchas, things that you wish you had known, but just an opportunity to talk amongst yourselves and different challenges you might have seen. So we'll give that, Danielle, you want to say about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll come back?
Yeah, I think that'll work. As I'm
Yeah.
trying.
Are you going to put me and Alexis in a breakout room?
I think everyone's going to go in one. And if I do it correctly, it'll be 4 to 5 participants per room, and it's just going to assign automatically.
Fun.
So, all right. We'll see you all back here in a few. Okay, it looks like people are coming back.
How did it go for everybody? I learned some interesting stuff.
Ooh, why don't you tell what you learned?
So Brad, our customer there, for me, he's in the lower right-hand corner, smiling at me like he thinks everything I say is great. I'm just going to go with that. Insurance, like insurance policies and terms, right? So like if you have an auto policy and it has a 6-month term, and we kind of talked about that a little bit. So some interesting stuff there. Anybody else have anything they want to share they learned? Any best practices, gotchas? Things that they think can unlock growth and productivity?
Actually, in our room, we didn't know what we were supposed to talk about. So we kind of like just introduced ourselves to each other.
Okay. Did you make some new friends?
Absolutely.
Good.
I mean, that's all I could, okay, stop that. That's all I could ask for. If people make some new friends, some new contacts. Anybody else have anything that they went through, learned?
Or still have questions on?
Yeah, that's also another good one. Do you still have any questions? Things you'd like to know more about? Quiet group.
I can't sing, so don't ask for that.
It is a quiet group today.
So before I hand it over to Danielle, because if we don't have any more on the recap, I appreciate all of you attending. I learned as much from some of the conversations that we had in our breakouts as I hope you did. One of the things I wanted to do is to keep the conversation going. We now have a Fins Trailblazer community group. This is different than the insurance user group, not that it's vastly different, but I, as an employee, get to run this internally. So what we're hoping to do is, with all of your feedback, if there's things that you really want to know more about, we get a lot of questions about like the release notes. So I put a link out here for the Winter 24 release notes. But what is actionable segmentation? How do I set it up? How do I use it? Who cares about that? So we want to be able to bring some more of this content and show you kind of the how, and really gear that towards our admin, dev, architect community, business analyst community. So it's not just the like, here is some new features, but how do I use them? What's the best way to use them? I'm running into some issues. I can't do it, because a lot of what we're hearing with Financial Services Cloud is that people don't quite know where to go to either adjust a component or change something in the data model. So what we want to do is, instead of you going custom, let's talk about that. Let's show you best practices and go through all of that. So that's kind of where we're at. If you're not part of the Finch Trailblazer community group, use this QR code, please join. We are aiming to have quarterly meetings, but I was just talking to Danielle, we might actually ramp that up a little bit because we have such good content coming out of Dreamforce. And if you have any specific asks, things that you would love to see, definitely join the group. I'm going to be doing a poll there to try to get some content recommendations, things that you want to learn about. So that's kind of us. I don't know, Danielle, if you have additional stuff you want to recap.
Just thank you again to both you, Jodi and Alexis, for coming in today and speaking. I'm really excited about the collaboration that our groups are going to be able to do together, and love the fact that we've got some additional content and support from Salesforce proper coming out into the community and being able to work with us. So really excited about that. I know that we had mentioned the poll situation. I've asked numerous times as well, if there's specific items that you guys have questions on, want to talk about, please let me know, or and we'll be posting that as well. The whole point of these community groups is to answer your questions and to be here to support you and to learn from each other. And I learn from you all every day in different aspects. And so, really just trying to get everyone to connect together. And thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Thanks all.